RentAPerson. Each job change implies a step up of the rate at which people pass through our lives, and as the rate of turnover increases, the duration of relationships declines. This is strikingly manifest in the rise to prominence of temporary help services, the human equivalent of the rental revolution. In the United States today, nearly 1 out of every 100 workers is at some time during the year employed by a so-called temporary help service, which in turn rents him or her out to industry to fill temporary needs. Today, some 500 temporary help agencies provide industry with an estimated 750,000 short-term workers, ranging from secretaries and receptionists to defence engineers. When a division of Avco Corporation needed 150 design engineers for hurry-up government contracts, it obtained them from a number of rental services. Instead of taking months to recruit them, it was able to assemble a complete staff in short order. Temporary employees have been used in political campaigns to man telephones. They have been called in for emergency duty in printing plants, hospitals and factories. They have been used in public relation activities. In Orlando, Florida, temporaries were hired to give away dollar bills at a shopping centre in an attempt to win publicity for the centre. More prosaically, tens of thousands of them fill routine office work assignments to help the regular staff of large companies through peak load work periods. And one rental company, the Ch6 service system, advertises that it will rent maids, chauffeurs, butlers, cooks, handymen, babysitters, practical nurses, plumbers, electricians and other home service people. Like Hertz and Avis rent cars, it adds. The rental of temporary employees for temporary needs is like the rental of physical objects spreading all over the industrialised world. Manpower Incorporated, the largest of the temporary help services, opened its operation in France in 1956. Since then, it has doubled in size each year, and there are now some 250 such agencies in France. Those employed by temporary help services express a variety of reasons for preferring this type of work. Says one electromechanical engineer, "Every job I'm on is a crash job, and when the pressure is immense, I work better." In 8 years, he has served in 11 different companies, meeting and then leaving behind hundreds of co-workers. For some skilled personnel, organised job hopping actually provides more job security than is available to supposedly permanent employees in highly volatile industries. In the defence industries, sudden cutbacks and layoffs are so common that the permanent employee is likely to find himself thrown on the street without much warning. The temporary help engineer simply moves off to another assignment when his project is completed. More important for more temporary help workers is the fact that they can call their own turns. They can work very much when and where they wish, and for some it is a conscious way to broaden their circle of social contacts. One young mother, forced to move to a new city when her husband was transferred, found herself lonely during the hours when her 2 children were away at school. Signing up with a temporary help service, she has worked 8 or 9 months a year since then, and by shifting from one company to another has made contact with a large number of people from among whom she could select a few as friends. How to lose friends. Rising rates of occupational turnover and the spread of rentalism into employment relationships will further increase the tempo at which human relationships are formed and forgotten. This speed up, however, affects different groups in different ways. Thus, in general, working-class individuals tend to live closer to and depend more on their relatives than do middle and upper-class groups. In the words of psychiatrist Leonard Dewey, their ties of kinship mean more to them, and with less money available, distance is more of a handicap. Working class people are generally less adept at the business of coping with temporary relationships. They take longer to establish ties and are more reluctant to let them go. Not surprisingly, this is reflected in a greater reluctance to move or change jobs. They go when they have to, but seldom from choice. In contrast, psychiatrist Duell points out the professional, academic and upper managerial class in the United States is bound by interest ties across wide physical spaces, and indeed can be said to have more functional relationships. Mobile individuals, easily duplicable relationships and ties to interest problems depict this group. What is involved in increasing the throughput of people in one's life are the abilities not only to make ties but to break them, not only to affiliate but to disaffiliate. Those who seem most capable of this adaptive skill are also among the most richly rewarded in society. Seymour Lipset and Reinhard Bendix in Social Mobility and Industrial Society declare that the socially mobile among business leaders show an unusual capacity to break away from those who are liabilities and form relationships with those who can help them. They support the findings of sociologist Lloyd Warner, who suggests that the more important component of the personalities of successful corporate managers and owners is that their deep emotional identification with their families of birth being dissolved, they no longer are closely intermeshed with the past and therefore are capable of relating themselves easily to the present and the future. They are people who have literally and spiritually left home. They can relate and disrelate themselves to others easily. And again, in Big Business Leaders in America, a study he conducted with James Abeglan, Warner writes, "Before all, these are men on the move. They left their homes and all that this implies. They have left behind a standard of living, level of income, and style of life to adopt a way of living entirely different from that into which they were born. The mobile man first of all leaves the physical setting of his birth. This includes the house he lived in, the neighbourhood he knew, and in many cases even the city, state and region in which he was born. This physical departure is only a small part of the total process of leaving that the mobile man must undergo. He must leave behind people as well as places. The friends of earlier years must be left for acquaintances of the lower status, past and incompatible with the successful present. Often the church of his birth is left, along with the clubs and cliques of his family and of his youth. But most important of all, and this is the great problem of the man on the move, he must, to some degree, leave his father, mother, brothers and sisters, along with the other human relationships of his past. It is not so startling to read in a business magazine a coolly detached guide for the newly promoted executive and his wife. It advises that he break with old friends and subordinates gradually in order to minimise resentment. He is told to find logical excuses for not joining the group at coffee breaks or lunch. Similarly, miss the department bowling or card sessions occasionally at first, then more frequently. Invitations to the home of a subordinate may be accepted, but not reciprocated, except in the form of an invitation to a whole group of subordinates at once. After a while, all such interaction should cease. Wives are a special problem, we are informed, because they don't understand the protocol of office organisation. The successful man is advised to be patient with his wife, who may adhere to old relationships longer than he does, but as one executive puts it, a wife can be downright dangerous if she insists on keeping close relationships with the wives of her husband's subordinates. Her friendships will rub off on him, colour his judgment about the people under him, jeopardise his job. Moreover, one personnel man points out, when parents drift away from former friends, kids go too.